Welcome to Pour It Out. I'm Haley.
I'm Brandy. Thanks for being with us this week.
For episode 9.
Episode 9. Well, Haley, how was your week this week?
It was great. It was Halloween week. You guys know this. I've waited for this for months. I was just in such a good mood.
It was a very fun week. We dressed up as a family.
What'd y'all dress up as?
So my husband was the Grinch and my son was the baby Grinch. And they were a very big hit trick-or-treating. And then I was Cindy Lou and our dog was Max. So we just had the whole family involved.
Okay, so for people that don't know, why the Grinch?
The Grinch is a household favorite. It is my husband's favorite Christmas movie. One of my top 5, too, if I'm being honest. And he has wanted to do this costume for a very long time. So he completely personified the Grinch walking around the neighborhood. It was so funny. Like, little kids were coming up to him, like, asking to take their picture with him.
Yeah, he didn't play around. He fully committed.
He fully committed. And now he has the whole costume. So he'll probably bring it out for Christmas. And
I feel like you're going to walk out one day in your house and he's just going to be sitting on the couch around the holidays watching the Grinch dressed up as the Grinch.
Living his best life.
Living his best life.
Oh, yeah. He has, like, Grinch memorabilia. Like, he's very committed. So
it was for him.
It was a life dream of his to dress up.
Listen, you fulfilled one of his dreams.
It was very fun, though. We had a really good time. And my son is, like, old enough to be walking and stuff this year and, like, has such a little personality. So he didn't quite get the trick-or-treat words down, but he got the candy.
He got the candy down.
So
works out well for you.
It was very fun time. And then we've just been to a few fall festivals and just soaking up every minute. So.
Okay, one thing I do have to talk about though, and I texted you about this because I was very upset about this. These bats that you put on the wall, they've been viral for many years. They're super cute, easy.
You loved them when you put them up.
I loved them when I put them up. Okay.
Didn't love them taking
Why does nobody talk about how hard they are to take down? I used the little adhesive strips that came with them.
Yeah.
They were on my wall for a month. And I will say they're about halfway through the month. I was like, I wonder if these are going to be hard to take off because not one of them fell in the entire month. So I knew that they were stuck on there well. I just have to say, thank God I have orange peel texture on my walls because I'm not kidding. I think if I had flat matte walls, I think I would have had to repaint my walls. Like, I'm not kidding. I had to take a razor knife to these adhesive strips and peel them off of my walls.
Well, and see, last year when I put them up, I put them on my fireplace, which is like texturized stone. So I didn't have a problem. So I didn't think to forewarn you.
This is your fault.
Like, oh, this will be hard to get off of a wall texture. So that's how you spent your post Halloween.
Yeah, I was angry about it. Honestly, I looked at it. I realized this on Friday, the day after Halloween. And I took 2 off and was like, nope, not today, Satan. Not today. So I spent part of my Saturday doing it, which, I mean, wasn't any more fun. But so I will say I will either use double-sided tape moving forward, or they're not going to be a part of my Halloween decor, which is sad because I love them, but I'm not dealing with that crap every year.
Now, did you get your witch hats to stay?
Yes, I will. Okay, so when I first put them up, I put them up with tape because they hardly weigh anything and are adhered with fishing line. So I thought for sure that tape would be strong enough to hold them. It is not. So I got the little bitty clear command hooks and had a friend come over and help me put them up on the ceiling. I was a little afraid the command hooks would have the same effect, that they would rip my paint off my walls, but they didn't. They were super easy to take down, so that was a win. The bats, not so much. Yeah, if y'all have ideas or y'all put these bats up and have had this issue, or
With them
know
being
of
as
an easier
viral as they
way.
are.
That's what I'm saying. Like, somebody has to be talking about this.
Yeah.
It can't just be me. I did Google a couple of things, and somebody said a hair dryer, but honestly, I tried that on one of it, and it just, like, it didn't make a difference.
Yeah, maybe a different adhesive next year.
Maybe, yeah. So if y'all have any tips, let me know.
Well, speaking of previous episodes, Haley, I know that you had some insight and input of some of our past episodes of just things that you wanted to hit on.
I do. One of them being, if y'all listen to episode 2, the dating game, we talked a lot about wildlife, in particular, one of them being raccoons.
Yes.
Now, I will say the amount of people since that episode that have sent me either TikTok or Instagram reels about raccoons is hilarious. I'm not 100% sure that, like, that's how I want to be known.
Now when people think of raccoons,
now
they
when
think
people
of
think
you.
of raccoons, one of my friends even texted me, like, a raccoon shirt and was like, I almost bought this for you and dropped it off on your door.
Oh, wow.
So I'm starting to become associated with raccoons,
Yeah.
which is like that's a whole nother thing. But, like, several of you online have sent me if you've seen the election map, where it's like, if you're tired of the election, here's a map portraying the states where it's legal to own a raccoon as a pet. That one is really funny.
They all think that's pertinent
They
to
all
you.
think it's pertinent to me. I got one this week from one of our friends. I thought it was hilarious. So that leads me to a follow-up. What am I missing? Like, I have got to be missing something, because apparently raccoons as pets is a thing, and it was a thing we were unaware of. So,
I mean, I have seen them as, like, outside pets before, like where you put out food and the raccoons come and, you know, whatever. But this is like inside pets, like they're like a part
like,
of the family.
right before
we
recorded this episode, I was showing Brandy this. There is a raccoon that has a TikTok account.
Mm-hmm.
Her name is Piper the Raccoon. And this cute little blonde girl has 4 kids, and she wanted a 5th kid. And instead of having a 5th kid, her husband got her a raccoon.
Interesting spin, you know,
interesting
like you would
spin.
think.
She, like, carries it around on her hip like a baby. She has a Yorkie, and the Yorkie and the raccoon, like, cohabitate together in the house.
Really a 5th child.
Truly a 5th child. Like, I am missing something. So if y'all have any hot tips,
pretty much you want to know, like, does anyone have a pet raccoon?
Does anybody
like,
have a pet
good
raccoon?
Pets?
Like,
what are we?
What are we missing?
Yeah.
What's up? What's the deal? Somebody let me know.
Yeah,
I got a lot of questions.
So if you do happen to have a pet raccoon or know of somebody,
and if
please
y'all
let us
don't know what we're talking about, go back and listen to episode 2, and you will quickly understand where we're coming from. The other update that I have, not only is it for myself, but Brady, you will really appreciate this. So after our Amazon episode, my mom ordered the snail mucin.
Did she?
And I have tried it several times and really like it, but you know who loves it? Your dad.
Oh my goodness, that makes me so happy.
My dad has started using the snail mucin, but, like, didn't know what it was. And so my mom, I guess he has really dry skin. He had, like, been working outside. His face got really dry. And my mom was like, I've got this serum on the counter, on the bathroom counter, like, go use it. And he's like, okay, like, having no idea what it is. So he starts using it, and I guess he's, like, hooked on using it now and, like, uses it all the time. So he's over at my house yesterday, and I was like, yeah, I heard you've been using the snail serum. He goes, what? And I was like, yeah, that serum on the bathroom counter. Do you know what it is? And he was like, no, what is it? And I said, it's snail extract. And he goes, I don't even care. He was like, that crap works great. He was like, I don't care what it is. My skin feels great. So Brady,
to the rescue.
Brady, our entire family is now using the snail mucin.
Oh, I got you guys all converted. That's
you did.
Great. No, I really do love it. And it really helps with dry skin. That is so really funny because I can just picture your dad being like, I don't even care.
He was like, I don't care. It works.
Maybe I can convince Paul to use it. It
He
does.
probably
It feels
would.
really
It
nice,
feels really nice.
doesn't it?
And I will say, I think the reason that I like it so much, and I know that there are some girls that are going to resonate with me on this, I have super combination skin.
Yeah.
So in the winter, I'm super dry, but in the summer, I'm super oily, especially in my T-zone. But I get so dry in like the fall and winter that my face like almost hurts.
Yeah.
My complexion works really well with any sort of water or gel-based product. That's what hydrates my skin the most. And so I've tried my mom's snail mucin multiple times. And because it's gel, like water-based, it hydrates my skin better. So I really like it
Without
too.
really feeling like weighed down. Well, good. I'm glad.
Yeah.
I'm glad I helped somebody out.
Yep. We went from not even knowing that it was a thing to my whole family's using it. So good job. Give you
Mission
full
accomplished.
credit.
So let's jump into this week's episode. And before we do that, Haley, what are we pouring it out with?
Okay. So keeping with our little holiday series, I am trying the neutral cranberry variety pack. You know,
So they're all cranberry
They're
based.
all cranberry, but they're like cranberry grapefruit is the one that I'm trying right now. It's delicious. But I went to the FSU football game yesterday and they had just the original cranberry at the bar. And I tried that one with a friend of mine. It was great. But the variety pack is also, so it's original cranberry, cranberry lime, cranberry orange, cranberry apple, and cranberry grapefruit. And they are delightful.
And which one would you say is your favorite?
Ooh, probably the cranberry lime. Just because I love a cranberry vodka lime anyway. Like I will order it if I'm out. So I really love that one. Shockingly enough, that I did a little taste test of all of these earlier. And the cranberry orange, okay, if y'all have a Fresh Market near you and y'all have tried the Fresh Market cranberry orange breakfast loaves and or the muffins, it tastes just like a cranberry orange breakfast loaf in a can.
Like identical, yeah.
Like identical.
And I think the cranberry grapefruit, it kind of sounds like a weird combination when you first hear it, but it's actually very refreshing. It's a little bit more tart, but it's really good.
It's good. And I feel like they're perfect for holiday.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Like perfect for holiday, for rolling into the season. So that's why I wanted to hop on here and talk about this. And that's what we're pouring it out with this episode because it is there. It's only 100 calories, has no added sugar, and it's gluten-free. And an 8-pack was like $13 maybe. And I got it from we love Total Wine. Got it from Total Wine. And yeah, so festive, so fun. Such a great option for rolling into the holidays, especially if you're like going to a party or something, a holiday party. That would be such a great thing to just grab and take with you.
Yeah, very good variety, good flavors.
Yeah. 10 out of 10.
Nice.
Brady, what are we talking about this time?
Well, today we're talking about a topic that has really resonated with us more recently, and we find each other talking about it on the phone pretty regularly. And so we thought we would turn it into a podcast episode just because it really resonated with us. And we think that it was just an interesting topic to kind of take up on. So we are talking about moving from type A to type B, which really just means both of us identified as type A for a very long time. And then as we've gotten older, had more experience, we have come to realize that there are characteristics of both type A and type B that we want to carry forward in our personal growth.
Yeah. And really, I think Brandy and I both kind of hit this transition really ironically about the same time, but for different reasons. And for different reasons, we both just kind of hit a place of burnout and we had to start making some changes and doing some self-reflecting and some prioritizing that kind of caused us to have to let go of some of the perfectionism and the stress that we were both holding on to.
Yep.
So let's talk about it.
So we're going to start off by talking about just defining the two types, in case you heard that and were like, I have no idea what you're talking about. We are going to kind of break it down, and you will probably find yourself leaning more one way or the other. And then we're going to kind of break down how to implement the best of both worlds into being the person that you want to be. So to start off, type A, which both me and Haley strongly identified with, I think, growing up and in our early, adolescent years and adult years. And again, that perfectionism had such a strong hold on us. And so I think that caused us to be extremely type A and felt like that was what we needed to live up to. So some of the characteristics are, and Haley, you can just jump in too, but tend to multitask, which means to carry on a lot of different things at one time, to be competitive.
Yeah, with everything. Like, no matter what the situation is or who the person is, you turn every possible thing into a competition.
Yes. Have a lot of ambition. And I will say none of these things are bad things. That's kind of what we want to preface this with, is that your strongest points can also be some of your weaknesses.
So our next point is having a lot of ambition. Again, to Brandy's point, that's not a bad thing at all. Brandy and I both still have an incredible amount of ambition, but it no longer consumes our life. And I feel like neither one of us necessarily exude outwardly the amount of stress that we were beforehand.
And developing a very healthy balance. Type A can also be very organized, which again is a very good thing. But if you are so organized that you can't let anybody help or can't let anybody, if something's out of line, you feel very like triggered or, then it's kind of time to be like, okay, I probably need to take a look at myself. Dislike wasting time.
Yeah, which I would say, so type B would view this more so as just slowing down and taking a breather. And I feel like changing that mindset from you're wasting time to you're actually enjoying your life.
Yeah.
You
don't
just
always
slow
have to be
down a little bit. You don't always have to be doing something. Or if you've, taken a minute to take a breather, or you're sitting down and like playing with your dog or playing with your kids, like you're not wasting time.
Yeah.
You're taking a minute to enjoy your life.
Yeah. And that time is really valuable. And something that can feel like wasted time really is truly probably one of those most precious times. Feeling impatient or irritated when delayed, gonna be honest, was still working on this.
I still struggle with this. Like, I'm very prompt and I'm usually early. And if somebody's slowing me up, I mean, that one still annoys me.
That's where our road rage comes in.
Yeah, we're still working on that one.
Spend much of your time focused on work.
Which we still do, 100%.
We do.
We work all the time. Like,
yes.
We are both involved in multiple businesses. But it's more so, we've turned it more so into things that we want to do and things that we're passionate about. Mm-hmm. So even though we are working all the time, we're not, it's a different kind of stress.
Yeah, it's fulfilling, and your work becomes something that you're very driven towards for positive reasons versus a stressful reason. Also, to be highly focused on your goals, again, very positive thing. But if that consumes you, it can lead to burnout.
So just enjoying the journey and just, realizing that it's very important to dream and think big, but don't put so much pressure on yourself to reach what may be the unattainable.
Mm-hmm. And then also, type A is definitely more likely to experience stress when faced with delays or other challenges that affect success. And I think this is where both me and you started to really turn ourselves inside out and reflect when we started to feel the stress of the world. Yes. And their expectations.
Yeah, because to me, it comes across as a heightened sense of perfectionism and people pleasing. Mm-hmm. And kind of going back to like the dreams versus reality, this heightened sense of perfectionism and people pleasing is completely unattainable.
Right.
And when you feel like you are just spending your entire life trying to please other people, it is so daunting and weighs on you so much that you just feel like you're constantly letting everybody else down all the time. And that is just not healthy.
And you can also look at type B, which is somewhat the reverse of that. So type B tends to spend a lot of time on creative pursuits or psychological thought. They live, kind of like you said, a little bit slower life. They enjoy things a little bit more. They also feel less rushed when completing assignments or tasks for work or school. I have noticed this in work that they are more about quality than quantity,
Mm-hmm.
which can, again, be a very big asset, but also something that type A can take at and look at as you're not doing this fast enough, or
Mm-hmm.
you're not doing this we like to use the word efficient.
I think that that's big. And I think that the older you get too, especially when you get to a point where you're in the position of like managing other people and you're checking work for other people, really at the end of the day, yes, efficiency is important, but what is efficiency if the work's not accurate?
Right. And so both A and B are very valuable, not just in the workspace, but also in a personal space as well. Having a type B personality doesn't mean you never feel stressed, but you may experience less stress when you don't meet your goals in comparison with a type A personality who puts all their pressure on obtaining goals.
Yeah, and really I would say transitioning your mindset from a type A to type B, it really truly is just switching your mindset. Like none of these things that we're saying is to say that Brandy and I don't care about this stuff. We're just sitting here telling you that these are all things that we struggled with that weighed on us for years, to the point that we both had to take a step back and go, we're not really enjoying our lives and we're kind of living our lives for other people.
What can we do?
What can we do to take a step back and just care less? Sounds bad, but just not stay fixated on things that we can't control.
Right. And so that was kind of what led us to then how do we move into finding that balance between the characteristics that we have because we've put so much on ourselves to then the characteristics that we want to have, that we want to implement more of for a little bit more of an enjoyable life. And this kind of came into the idea that you can exhibit characteristics of that type, but not others. So don't define yourself as a certain type. I think a few years ago, I got really wrapped up in personality tests like the Enneagram and type A, type B, and now there's like type C and type D. There's different.
Oh, I don't even know what that
types.
is.
But you can get very wrapped up. Like I was obsessed with the Enneagram. I think a bunch of people were, especially in a workplace environment. And it kind of became like, oh, I'm a Enneagram 3. And then anything that I did was like, that's not what an Enneagram 3 would do, and you're characterizing yourself by that certain brand.
Yeah, I think the biggest takeaway here is just don't put yourself in a box.
Yeah.
It's because when you think that you have to mold your personality into a certain category or certain characterization, then you feel tied to being like, oh, I'm type A, I'm type B, I'm an Enneagram, I'm this, I'm
Which
that.
is a different type of pressure.
We just had to learn to just relax a little bit.
And realizing that you can't be a type. You can't be a Enneagram. At best, you can have some characteristics of that trait associated with type A or type B or Enneagram 8. But if you place yourself in that box, then you're struggling to maintain that persona that you created in your mind that someone told you that you were versus what traits you actually are, which is really a mixture.
And I think you have to be honest with yourself about your own happiness. I think we both kind of got to that point where, when we took a step back and started doing some self-reflecting, it was like, well, who are we doing this for? Like, are we doing all of this to people please, or because it's actually all of these things are making us happy?
Right.
You have to prioritize your own happiness, and the only person that can do that is you. And I've told people this over the years, kind of as I've transitioned into more of a type B mindset, is you are the only person that controls your own happiness. Like, as much as you love your spouse or as much as you love your kids, you define your own happiness. Do not look to anybody else for your own happiness. Like, that is your responsibility.
Something too that can come with finding your identity in a certain type is you're telling yourself that one, you have no room for change, that is just who you are. And that in turn means that two, you don't need to apologize for it or be reflective or try to implement things in your life that either reduce stress or, in some people's case, if they're extremely type B, increase drive and increase goal reaching. And so you're putting yourself in that box, and then you're also telling yourself, no, I'm not going to change because this is just how I am.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think with the characteristics of both, it's really important. It's an important takeaway to have attributes of both.
Definitely.
Again,
Yeah.
like we're saying, we're not saying that any of these are bad, but I think it's healthy to have a mixture of both.
And to familiarize yourself with both of the different types and how they live, and then take what are the helpful ideas, tips, tricks that they use in their everyday life to truly experience the very best of both type A and type B.
Yeah, and I would say too that I think a big part of that is learning to identify what your stressors are.
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
And, something Brandy and I talk about, multiple times a week and have for at least 2 years, something that is incredibly important to us is constant growth. And I feel like this transition was a big part of that. Like the older you get, if you're not learning and growing and maturing and becoming a better version of yourself, then that is a level of self-reflection that you need to have as well. Why do I don't want to be the same person that I was when I was 20.
Right. Why would you want to be?
Yeah.
And then look at, okay, well, who do you want to be in the next year, in the next 5 years, in the next 10 years? So what are some ideas that both you and I have kind of taken to incorporate what we could be and draw from those best characteristics?
I think one of the things for me that really, this is something that I really, really struggled with for a long time. Like when I first got my first house, I was so fixated on having the perfect house and everything had to be put together and everything had to look a certain way. And I was in my mid 20s at this point and I had a really big job. I worked 50 to 60 hours a week. And then I felt like I had to keep up this perfect house. So literally, I kind of woke up one day and was like, oh my God, this is all I do. All I do is work and keep a perfect house, to the point that I had to take a step back and go, I'm losing friends because I would turn down invitations to go live my life on the weekends because I was so busy during the week with work. So then on the weekends, I have to clean my house and I have to do my laundry and I have to meal prep and I literally didn't see anybody.
It takes up all your time.
It takes up all your time. And then you wake up and you're like, well, the weekend's gone. And then, it's 6 months later and you're like, well, crap, I haven't seen my friends in months. And they don't invite me to do anything anymore. Oh, it's because I told them no for so long. Because I was so fixated on this level of perfectionism that was just burning me out. So I just had to get to a point where I was like, you know what? I don't care anymore. Like, yeah, I want my house to look picked up and put together, but I'm not going to miss out on my life. And my friends and family are the things that are most important to me. But if I never see them and I don't know what's going on in their lives because I'm all consumed with a level of unattainable perfectionism, what am I doing?
What's the point? My biggest one has come down to going off of that. Choose what matters to you. If everything matters, if every little tiny thing matters, you will never experience peace or be satisfied. And you will also, this is out of personal experience, make the people closest to you want to avoid you, be fearful of making mistakes, and you'll be absolutely no fun to be around. So choose what matters and then why it matters. And that's going to look different for every single person. Some people, it really matters that their bed is made every single day. Some people are like, no, I could take it or leave it. And if you could take it or leave it, then guess what? Leave it if you don't have time, or if you don't have the bandwidth, or if you just want to rest, or if you are getting to work early, or you're in the midst of raising kids. 99% of people will not know that you made your bed that day. But if it's something like, to me, it makes me feel like, okay, I can take on the day. So I have realized that is a priority. It takes me 2 minutes, and that's just how I'm going to start my day. But if it doesn't matter to you, then just let it go.
Mm-hmm.
And there has been that realization, and it was almost like a light bulb went off. And I was like, I don't have to care about everything else that other people care about.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's
and
okay.
You know what? If people come over to your house and they want to criticize you because your bed's not made, get out of my house. Like, you're probably not somebody that we want to be friends with anyway.
But...
Like, you know, I mean, we also, I think Brady and I both pride ourselves on being very selective about the people that we surround ourselves with too. So I think that is something that's super important, is surround yourself with a super positive village of people that are going to build you up, and not people that are going to come into your house or come into your life and criticize what they feel like you're not doing.
And what matters to me right now is raising kids and building a business. Those are like my top two. Yeah. And so everything else, even things that I would prioritize 6 months ago, have suddenly fallen down the priority list. And instead of choosing to stress about it or being like, this is what I'm going to focus on, I have realized there will come a day that I can move that back up my priority list. But today is not that day. If my husband and my son want to go out on the lake on a Friday afternoon when I have a million other things to do, I'm always going to choose that. I should always choose that, because those moments are fleeting.
Yeah, it doesn't last forever. And we talk about this all the time, that the time is so fleeting. Like, you having a toddler is only going to be a thing for a couple of years.
Yeah. And then it's gone.
And you don't get that time back.
Yeah. And if I spent that time stressing about things, everything that was on my mind, I would lose all those memories. And that has resonated with me so much more, in that you can only fit so much in a 24-hour period. And what is most important in that 24-hour period is to hold each day in this phase of life that you're currently living in. What does each day in what you're walking through right now mean to you? And what are you going to put into place to make that a priority?
Yeah, and I think too, something that was really important for me, especially as a single person, is realizing when your very best is enough. You know, it may not be everybody's best, but it's my best. And the thing that I really kind of had to take a step back on as a single person living alone is that every single responsibility falls solely on me. All of the cooking, all of the cleaning, all of the dog walking. There is no, if I cook a big meal, there's no husband to do the dishes behind me when I've done it all.
Like every aspect
of running a household falls on me. And sometimes I'm freaking tired. Like, when I get home from working a full-time job, and like dogs in general, like animals in general, want attention. And I love my little dog more than anything on the planet. But nobody ever prepares you that having a little dog is like having a toddler, like, at all times.
But is it like having a raccoon?
I mean, that's a fair question. I don't know. But if y'all go follow Piper the raccoon, she lives with the Yorkie. So, maybe.
Yeah, maybe.
Maybe they're besties. I don't know. But it's just, it's another thing that like needs my constant attention. And I can't just walk in the door after being at work all day and ignore her because I've got all the stuff in my house that needs attention. She wants attention. And I've got to play with her and feed her and walk her. So then by the time I do that and then cook dinner and unload the dishwasher and put everything away, I've been in the kitchen for 3 hours. I don't want to clean up again. So there's some nights that, you know what? I put the dishes in the sink. Does it bother me? Yes. But you know what? I had to learn when to say, I have hit a wall. I've hit a wall and I'm freaking tired and I want to go to bed. So the dishes are going to sit there. And to your point, 99% of people are not going to know that. Does it bother me? Yeah. Did I have to learn to get over it because I was wearing myself out? Absolutely. And it just is what it is.
And people will not know unless you get on this podcast.
I mean, I was going to say, we just told all of our listeners about it, but you know what? Hopefully this means that y'all find us relatable.
I'm sure they've left dishes in the sink before.
Or an unmade bed.
This was probably my most helpful idea that came to me when I was trying to revamp just how I did things when I realized I was overstimulated and overstressed, was setting realistic routines instead of unattainable expectations, because that helps you to prioritize, minimize your feeling of overwhelm or failure, which was a big one to me as a new mom. And it enabled me to have more freedom to hold the space for things that are important. Meaning, okay, I want to go on the lake with my son and my husband on a 10 minutes notice. Well, that means that I need to put things in place before that so that I don't feel stressed out, such as having his diaper bag ready, having snacks on hand, having the car packed. All those things play a factor in reducing my stress because I have set up regular routines to minimize that. I could do an entire podcast on routines, which makes it sound very type A. However, I learned that it actually makes me more type B because I'm able to relax and enjoy things because I already have those things set into place. So that was a big one for me, especially as a mom, because you have so many things to juggle and think about. And it can feel very overwhelming when someone invites you to do something last minute and all you want to think about is your schedule. How am I going to do this? Okay, I don't. Already putting those things into place to like, yep, we're ready to go on a whim, helped me to mitigate that feeling of stress and doom to the point where then I didn't want to get out and do it.
Yeah.
And enjoy life.
Yeah. I also think the thing that has really helped us is we, over the years, have become, we like nice things and we like to get dressed up. But overall, as far as girls go, we are relatively low maintenance.
Yes.
Like Brandy and I both can get ready if we need to in about 10 minutes. I'm going to be honest, if you see me out in the wild, usually I have on a hat, some sort of athleisure or matching set, tennis shoes, and probably no makeup. But you know what? We can get invited to do something and we can basically be out the door.
Oh, yeah.
Like, let's go.
Like, you need us there in 30 minutes?
Great.
I will be there with my kid, his lunch packed. We'll be
good. And this is Southern culture that really gets ingrained in you. And this was something that we both really struggled with this, was having to look like you were dressed to the nines at all times. Yeah. Your hair has to be perfect. Your makeup has to be perfect. Your outfit has to be perfect. And that is exhausting. Y'all, that is so exhausting. And I was that person and Brandy was that person for a very long time. And it took us an hour and a half to get ready. And we both were finally one day, we're like, we just don't care. We don't care. We like to get dressed up and buy cute clothes, but there is a time and a place for it. It's not the time when you get invited to go out on the lake. That is not the time to be like, oh, well, it's going to take me an hour to get ready. Dude, nobody cares.
Yeah. Just grab and go.
Just grab and go.
Wear tennis shoes, though. But I think sometimes realizing that pressure that you hold yourself to will eventually catch up to you.
You're going to burn out.
Yeah. And if perfection is already unattainable because it's called perfection for a reason, then why are we wasting our one life to reach it? I think that it's important, like we just talked about, to live in the imperfections. It's what humanizes you, makes you approachable, and creates community. And I know that we've talked a lot about this recently about social media and how it can play a role in that perfection persona.
It is. It's a persona and it's a facade. And all of these influencers and this social media culture, it has made it so much worse. And I saw this post a while ago. I feel like it was on Instagram. And it was of a house from like 15 years ago maybe. And everything was it was clean, but everything was super basic, not really decorated, but it was a happy home. And the caption was, this was a house 15 or 20 years ago, before Pinterest, before Instagram, before social media and influencers took over to make you feel like you had to have all of these things.
Before you had that comparative lens just all the time.
All the time.
Yeah.
And it's made you feel like you basically are in competition with the world.
24/7.
24/7.
Always
it
accessible.
Never shuts off.
Yeah.
And it's always the next best thing. Oh, this decor was a trend for 5 minutes. Well, what's the next thing? And what's the next thing? And so you always feel like you're behind.
Always.
Because you watch all these reels of all these people that are just constantly decorating and DIYing
and your idea that you thought was good.
It's like,
all
oh,
of a
well,
sudden
that
you get
was
on there
so last year.
And you say, and you feel inadequate.
Yes.
Which is not fair.
Everybody's just doing the best they can. Do not get me on my soapbox about these DIYers. Listen, Brandy and I are both about budgets and DIY. We both love a good project. Like, we're both pretty handy. We enjoy doing stuff. But these DIYers that get on social media and post, like, I watched one today that was like, oh, just make this quick little craft for Christmas. It was like 20 steps.
I think we need to rethink the word quick.
Who has time for that?
Yeah.
And I looked at Brandy, I showed it to Brandy, and I was like, okay, here's the facade, because I can promise you this chick doesn't work.
No.
She doesn't work. She doesn't have kids. And I'm sorry. We're busy. Brandy and I are both running companies.
Yeah.
We both have a lot going on. We both pretty much work all the time. It's stuff we love, but we both pretty much work all the time. If I have a minute to myself, I want to sit on my couch. I don't want to go make a DIY life-size Christmas garland outside that's going to take me 3 days. Who has time for all this stuff?
I don't know. But it is, it's the social media influence is so rampant, and it can catch up to you really quick as far as what you think that you know, your outfit, like, or your makeup routine, or I don't know, you can think you're doing something great and then you get on there and you're like, wow.
Sometimes it's just very important to take a step back and realize that you are enough. Everybody's doing the best they can. Everybody's just doing what they need to do to get by, and do not allow this social media culture to make you feel less.
And I think that was part of what I was saying in finding the things that overstimulate or trigger you specifically. It doesn't have to trigger anybody else, or the things that trigger other people or overstimulate them doesn't have to be the same for you. We're not all the same. And if you can take those stressors in your life and then implement type A routines to minimize those triggers, I think that leads to a healthier life, more balanced life. Also, too, I think taking the perfectionism in your life and then implementing type B mentalities to enjoy the world that you created also gives you that freedom. I think that is the creation of that balance that we're both looking for, and we have to revisit pretty often.
Also, recognize that you don't owe anybody else any answers either. To Brandy's point, you know what your own personal triggers are. And somebody else may not understand them, but you don't owe anybody an explanation or an answer. If that is a trigger for you and you need to take a step back and reevaluate or go do something else because that particular situation is triggering for you and for your mental health, it's better to walk away, do it.
Or if it bothers you enough to where you're like, I have to do this every day. Okay, fine. Be like, this is what I have to do every day. This one thing. It may not be the same for it's not going to be the same for everybody. because different things bother different people. And that comes into that prioritization.
Yeah. And we've said this before in another episode, but there's beauty in boundaries.
Yes.
It's okay to take a step back and be like, I've hit my limit.
So to kind of close out this episode, we're going to end on what our personal examples are of our type A tendencies and type B. And I think by the end of this, we'll just be walking oxymorons. But that's okay. That's part of it. That's the whole part of the balance.
Yeah.
So
I think my biggest one, coming from such a strong events background, that is a totally different level of perfectionism. And it spilled over so much into my everyday life that me hosting and throwing events, that perfectionism in my personal life for anything I hosted I was so stressed out. I didn't enjoy anything that I hosted, any event that I threw. I think I made everybody else around me miserable. If people drink tea out of Solo cups, it's fine. And I really had to get to that mindset. Like, I was making myself miserable and everybody else miserable. I had to learn to let it go.
And they're probably having a better time drinking out of Solo cups.
Yeah. I say that, and
enjoyable.
I just tried to make, let me tell you, I had a social media fail because I tried to make ghost Jell-O molds for Halloween. All the molds went in the trash. The Jell-O wouldn't even come out of the mold. So you know what? There's a fail for you. And that just showed to me I didn't need to do it anyway. Oh, well.
The ghosts weren't meant to be.
The ghosts weren't meant to be. And it's fine.
It's fine. And nobody
literally nobody knew.
Yeah, nobody needed to
Everybody knows now. But you know what? But that is a prime example, though, because something like that not turning out would have just eaten me up. Like, yeah. I would have been so bothered by it. Like, I can't believe these didn't turn out. Like, these were going to be cute. Now I'm like, oh, whatever. They went in the trash. The molds cost me $3. The Jell-O, it as a whole maybe cost me $10. Whatever. Yeah. They went in the trash and nobody knew the difference.
Yeah. For me, you could walk through my house and see my type A and type B. Like, my kitchen, extremely type A. Has to be clean all the time. I think it's because I am in it so often. So I know that, like, okay, if I don't clean up lunch, then by dinner, it's still going to be sitting there. And then I'm going to feel very overwhelmed. So I learned quickly, probably about 6-8 months ago, my kitchen has to be clean at all times. Doesn't matter what time it is that I get home. It has to be clean. Otherwise, I will wake up and I'd be in a very bad mood. However, I also walk through my garage, which should probably have caution tape around it because there's just
park in their garage.
There's just stuff everywhere, like literally, and no sort of organization, just literally thrown in there. And I walk past that to get to my kitchen when I get home. So
it's just what it is.
Yeah. But I've learned my garage, it'll probably sit there for another couple years until I have time to tackle it. But my kitchen gets tackled multiple times a day.
My other big one is career. And I know that we did an entire episode on career, so I won't harp on it too much. But I was, especially in my 20s, I was incredibly career driven. And I had to have this, this big job that came with this big title that sounded really impressive to other people. But I finally realized that that's exactly what it was. It sounded good to other people. It sounded impressive to other people. But I was so burnt out and was such a shell of a human that I had to reevaluate. And now I am the happiest and the least stressed I have been, honest to God, probably in 10 years. Yeah. Because I learned to let what other people thought about me go. Yeah. And I am so much happier. I've been able to thrive creatively on so many things that we have talked about for years. And we both have some other stuff launching in 2025 that are some creative outlets for us. And I had to let the perfectionism go of what I thought everybody else wanted from me.
Yeah. I think that's a huge one. Do you have any other personal examples of moving from
I think
type
those
A
were
to
my
type
2 big
B?
ones.
I think the one that we'll end on, which is a complete oxymoron, but my type A tendency is that I have to unpack right away when I get home. Like the second I walk in the door, everything has to come out of my suitcase all the time. However, my mail can just sit there for months on end in a big stack that I put in my laundry room, and I just shut that door and say I'll worry about it later.
Well, you say you
So
shut
there.
the door. Her dog eats trim, so her dog also ate halfway through the door. So you shut half a door.
But I did get it replaced.
Yeah.
So
like 2
now,
years, like 2 years
so
later.
now I can be like, I don't have to look at this mail. But those are just some examples of, balance.
Again, all of this to say, I promise you, there's no judgment from either one of us. We just are coming from personal experiences and both just hit such a level of burnout that we, again, had to take a step and reevaluate. And we just wanted to kind of be a resource for others that maybe are feeling this way. Especially, we know a lot of young moms and young families and like a lot of young women that are trying to do it all right now, and that we have realized are kind of hitting that same phase of burnout that we did. So we just kind of wanted to use this episode as a platform and a resource to just tell you that like we've been there, we hear you, you're not alone.
To tune into social media all the time to know that there is a community out there that exists that is really just trying to choose what matters to them every day. And that is truly living your best life. So
thanks for joining us, guys.
yes, thanks for pouring it out with us.